Greetings, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. There is a really fascinating conversation topic that I discussed briefly with KT1 in our interview, and if you haven't seen that interview, I posted it to the channel previously. This is exciting for me because even though I'm not going to be in the position, especially at the first few days this week, to be by a computer, because when you watch this, I'm going to be in my training. I'm still working ahead, especially on the weekends, to have some form of content. It's not going to look a whole lot different to you at times. I mean, there may be some days where I can only post a couple videos, but overall, I don't think the content's going to be less, but the time that I dedicate to it from my vantage point is going to be way less. And that's just going to be something that's probably going to be literally only visible in the amount of live streams that I do, because there are going to be some weeks like I was in Texas where I don't do any, or only do one or two, when I used to do one or two a day. That era of my life is gone. I'm waving goodbye to it. I've only done one or two across the pond live streams this year. And again, I used to do them in the summer every day. So with that being said, we have a question. And that question is, Prof, what should I do with all these generic 5 and even 6-star awakening gems that I now have in my possession? And KT was telling me the people at the top, they don't have 8 or 5, they have like 20. And of course, for those people, I remember this being with Cal Whale back in the day when he played, but if you go for the new champions and you keep going for crystals, you're going to naturally awaken that champion. So 6 stones become crazy important. In fact, KT was saying in the interview that if he had a choice, he would actually trade in the generic awakening gem for more 6 stones. And I do wonder if this is the new version of that deal, because for about a month or so, they were giving us a couple times a month, every couple weeks, 30 generic 6 stones for $10. And so this is 30 generic 6 stones for $10 and a 6-star awakening gem, a generic, of course, for another $10. But I think he would have rather had 66 stones for $20. And so now, in order to get the 66 stones, you have to buy both limits, which of course, instead of $20 for that, is $40. And then if you buy both, you've got 2 more 6-star generic awakening gems. So I'm going to first off tell you that this is a video where I'm going to give you as much my personal preference as I'm going to give you anything else. There are going to be champions that I don't talk about that are probably pretty dang valuable for awakening gems, but just personally, I haven't used them on them and haven't missed them. Somebody that I've awakened, like Anti-Venom, for example, he might be amazing for an awakening gem, but I just naturally awakened him and haven't really used him. Now, compare that to Human Torch, or Captain America Infinity War, or even Thing. The Dad Bod Red Guardian, you talk about a champion that I feel like has just been relegated from fun to mid. I mean, he's still fun, but how many people use Red Guardian in Battlegrounds? I don't know anybody. How many people use him in Alliance War or Alliance Quest? I don't know anybody. So he's just probably going to be sent to the ash heap of either synergy use or probably just like Arena, which is most champions. But for this class, Scorpion, Human Torch, Cap America, Infinity War, like, who are you going to use once you put that awakening gem in? And by the way, it doesn't have to be the top champ for you to get top value from, but only you watching this know the answer to that question. I can't answer it for you. Void is one of those that absolutely benefits if you're going to use Void, but you got to put some 6 stones into him. The list goes on and on. Again, Silk, Sandman, not sure. Titania, I don't think she needs it, but I don't use her. Cassie Lang, same thing. I'm going with a lot of the OGs in this conversation. Now, for skill, there is number one, obvious answer, and that's Nick Fury. Nick Fury becomes the real Nick Fury for a generic awakening gem at Sig 1, and I think he is arguably the number one champion to use an awakening gem on any class. So if you don't have your Nick Fury awakened, do it. Thank me later. Now, as far as other champions, Kingpin, you can make a strong argument. Blade, you can make a strong argument. Falcon, you definitely need at SIG 200 if you want to take advantage of him. So he is right up there, but you need a lot of 6 stones. And I feel a lot less confident saying go Falcon versus Nick Fury since he doesn't need the 6 stones. Some people would argue for potentially Zemo. Obviously, Aegon, who has been sort of relegated to the also ash heap of arenas unless you're talking about specific content like The Abyss or Labyrinth of Legends, certainly benefits from a high SIG. When you scroll down, there are going to be champions that people talk about that I just don't use that much. Champions from Kraven to Mantis to Kate Bishop. The list goes on and on. Again, there are going to be people who say, Prof, I can't believe you didn't talk more about this specific champion. I'm just telling you what champions that I used Awakening Gems on while also trying to not have this video be longer than it needs to be. So some people might say Atuma should get one if you use them. If you use any of these champions, I always say, unless it's somebody like Nightcrawler or who was OG Spidey, who actually sort of arguably doesn't benefit from being awakened, it actually gets worse, particularly for something like defense. I would, if you use the champion, use the Awakening Gem. But don't make the mistake that I've made, which is I'm going to use, like Kitty Pryde, sort of the Nick Fury of being SIG 1. I used a Romance Awakening Gem on her, and I don't use her. She's amazing. She was actually voted as the #1 champion new in the Mutant poll for my channel. Doesn't mean for my channel she's #1 or even top 10. But if you're going to use her, use the gem. If not, don't waste it. Archangel, another no-brainer. Omega Red, if you have the recoil full synergies up, or recoil full mastery setup. I shouldn't have said synergies. One could argue for defense. Domino certainly deserves it. Namor is like Falcon. SIG 200 is really what you want with him, so only awaken him if you plan on putting a bunch of 6 stones into him. Colossus benefits similarly. Red Mags doesn't need it. Wolverine, if you got a bunch of 6 stones, add him in. Apocalypse doesn't need it, but if you're going to use him, same with Bishop, same with Cable, especially with that synergy. And again, don't know enough about Danny Moonstar to give information one way or the other. My top choices for here remain Wolverine, Kitty Pryde, Archangel, Namor, Omega Red, Colossus. All right, Iceman maybe too, for those of you who love Iceman. Let's go to Cosmic though. Stop wasting time. Hercules. Oh yeah, but again, 6 stones really help. Corvus doesn't need the 6 stones so much, so him at SIG 1 is a prime candidate. Then you're going to get into champions that I used really well for a while and didn't awaken, but if you're going to use them and you have 6 stones, you might want to. Hulkling, Gallon, and Cosmic Ghost Rider top that list. Null, I regret using 6 stones waking up because I don't use him at all. Hopefully that changes. Medusa has an amazing awaken ability for defense, but a lot of counters for her now at the Mystic class, so you probably don't want to waste it on that. Captain Marvel movie, maybe you want to use her, but I think Hyperion deserves it more, even though Hyperion doesn't need to be awakened to be amazing. Same with Venom. Then you get a bunch of champions down here like Icarus and Cersei and Adam Warlock, and champions that I know people love, but I just haven't used that much. So again, I'm going to concentrate on the ones that I have awakened with that item and personally used. Speaking of those that I've awakened and personally used, infamous Iron Doom has been one of those. Omega Cheeks has been one of those. Ultron's been one of those. Guillotine 29, Warlock, and Nimgod. That entire top row of 6 tech champions. Now, Guardian used to be a god-tier defender. Now I feel like so many people use Gallon or others and just melt him. Even though mine's SIG 200, that's another champion I wish I could use a rank down ticket on to at least get those SIGs back, but I can't. Shuri doesn't need to be awakened, but again, if you're going to use her, why not? Shocker and Fat-Man are 2 champions I have at rank 3 that both I look at and think, I'm kind of tempted because I've got the Awakening Gems, but I wouldn't use them before the other champions I've named. Star-Lord used to be #1 on the list. I don't think I'm even going to take him to rank 2 at this point. I've got Aegon, who's like Star-Lord 5.0. So we're moving on to the Mystic class. Doom, Rentra, Spider-Man Supreme, Absorbing Man. All solid choices. You've got champs like Tiger that don't need it, or Black Widow Clairvoyant that don't need it, but if you're going to use them, you might as well awaken them. But again, only if you're going to use them. Diablo's another champion I love, but I never use anymore. Dragon Man doesn't need to be awakened, but definitely, if you're going to use them, like just use the items on people you care about that you're going to bring into questing or battlegrounds or whatever. Mephisto, I think, benefits pretty strongly. There's a bunch of champions here that I have that I just haven't ranked up. Shout out to the double Iron Fists. You know, you got somebody who used to be like, hey, awaken your Dr. Voodoo. Okay, but are you going to actually use them? I don't know. This is such a high, heavy defender class, Ebony Coleslaw as well. But that top row, Doom, Black Widow, Clairvoyant, Absorbing Man, Spider-Man Supreme, Rintra, and Tigra are at the top of my list. Also, huge shout out in this class. I would have really not been happy with myself if I forgot Juggernaut. And talking to KT1 and interviewing him, he loves Juggernaut so much that it's his favorite champion. And I think that's awesome, especially for Battlegrounds. So, I know this is a fast video. It's sort of like bop, 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 popcorn style. You may appreciate it. You may not. But this could have been a half an hour video, and I just don't like putting that kind of content out. So, thanks for watching. Who did I miss? Who would you use your generic Awakening Gems on? Yes, the value of them is plummeted, but I think that's pro player overall for the game. And so, Kabam, thank you for making those Awakening Gems way more readily available and for cheap or free, like in the side quest, than we've ever seen before in this game.